Ben, could you be the first to kind of walk us through the early years and how you were able to gain traction in a difficult economic time?
Well, one person has to eat, right? And you got a lot of kids at home, and you got to raise them. One day, a neighbor came down and says, Ben, things aren't really so good in the agricultural things. Why don't you get a vacuum truck and go pump out a pit? One thing turned into the other. My brother and I started a business with a vacuum truck, working for farmers who were trying to figure out how to move liquid manure from the site to just get rid of it. And so that progression happened over and over and over for quite some time. Agriculture was starting to change. A lot of folks coming out of the 70s and early 80s needed some help. So vertical integration of the hog industry started to happen. Vertical integration of the hog industry meant that there was going to be a lot of hog confinements made, and subsequently later on there was a lot of dairies that would come into play as well. These pits went from these little modified slope buildings that we pump 6-7 times a year, sometimes once a month. In the farrowing barns, those little catch buildings that you don't see anymore, to 5,000 to 6,000 head farrowing barns, to 1,000 to 3,000 head finishing sites, and even bigger today, right? So what we thought we had to do is try to keep up with that and provide a service so the industry could grow. The industry was running into a lot of trouble at that time because the liquid manure was viewed as a waste, as a toxic waste, and we thought that it was a fertilizer. Actually, we were guessing that it was a fertilizer. We guessed right. We actually started applying it as it was a fertilizer. We started with the vacuum trucks, got a little bit better with the tractors and wagons scenario that we had. Tractors and wagons serviced very, very well up until the large-scale farrowing barns and finishing barns started to come into place, especially the dairies. And then we could find a way to be able to move it continuously to the field through drag hose. The equipment that was available at that time was not meeting. It's really, really pretty simple. It's work over time. It's a horsepower solution. And so what we were trying to do was be able to get the work done in a reasonable amount of time. So it was less intrusive to the neighbors who had to put up with the applications that was usually across their house, down the road. I mean, we all remember probably days from Ames, Iowa to Minnesota, that Interstate 35 just reeked to high heaven for about 60 days at a time, in the spring and in the fall. And so incorporating in the soil, we found out that we could retain the nitrogen value, and we could actually call it a fertilizer. And there's some people that actually believe that. So what we needed to do for our customers was be able to move it from the debit side or the liability side of the asset sheet to the asset side of the sheet. And by doing that, we had to provide a service that would leave a little bit of margin so that could be done, and we could either utilize the value of the manure to grow crops in the future. And as everything continued to grow, still there is a need in the industry for equipment that would solve that need. We started to innovate a few things. We did some agitation. We built some first boats. We got the capacity back to these sites that had lost capacity. They could stay in business. They could wait to the next event to be able to empty those pits and utilize that nutrient as a fertilizer in a more productive and a more pragmatic way. And so we went from pumping a pit like every month, literally, to maybe twice a year, but sometimes, rarely, once a year. And then one can better utilize the nutrient on the land and better expect its performance. And so the rest is kind of, we just scale and we run with the customer. We run with the industry. the industry needed something to get the work done, we found ways to be able to do that. And remember, I mentioned that there's a horsepower equation. It's horsepower. It's just flat horsepower. And today, I think we probably got it to 3,000 gallons a minute 5-6 years ago, and now I'm seeing all over Facebook we're tipping over 5,000 gallons a minute. 5,000 gallons a minute times 60 is 300,000 gallons an hour. We used to take 4 tractors and wagons and had a hard time doing 300,000 gallons in a day. Tough time doing 300,000 gallons a day. And so that was a return on labor of almost a 4-to-1, which is pretty good. Almost 8-to-1 if you really look at it, depending on how you want to slice it up. So we brought value to an industry, to 2 industries for sure. Looks like we've got some more value going in another industry. And these are all things that we've been doing for a long time, just repurposed. And the skill set that this group here has can probably solve anything, any kind of a problem in liquid transfer in any industry. And it looks great. It's a wonderful and very flattering opportunity to be here today to celebrate with the Puck family, the 45th anniversary of it. Never thought that, when I was 21 years old, that this would get this far. But you got to start sometime.
So, 2005, I had just gotten back from college, and we were running custom manure application and custom hay baling at that time, and there was really not much sight of ever commercially manufacturing anything. When I got back, I assumed we were going to be applying manure and baling hay for the foreseeable future. 2005, when we sold our first hose cart, was also the year that pretty much all of the alfalfa in the area, all the custom work went away. So when alfalfa got turned into corn ground, we were pretty well out of a job. So we took a chance, or took an opportunity, I guess is how I'd look at it, and tried to market our first hose cart. And in 2007, we got our first sale. And I'll forever remember that first customer that's up by Lamar's. Brad Yoakum and Rich Roush came down and bought not 1, but they bought 2 in the same day. So then we were off and running. And now I got to bring an order back to Dad and say, "See, told you we could do it, right?" And then the manufacturing was outsourced for quite a bit of time. The hose carts anyway, because we couldn't build them as fast as orders started coming in. And word of mouth really took over for the business. And we grew a quick reputation in the market for building very industrial, robust equipment. So 2009, we'll fast forward a little bit farther, begged Dad to build us this building. Jake was involved, Matt was a vendor of ours at that time, Bob was a vendor of ours at that time, and I didn't know Rusty, but we were buying hose from Angus, which is the plant we now have in North Carolina. So in kindly, we knew each other, and I met Spike in 2008 at Iowa State through Robert Burns that I saw was here before also. So anyway, all of us have kind of known each other, and we got the opportunity to start working together after we got this building built in 2010. That kind of put the stake in the ground that said we're here to do business, and then it really ramped from there. So 2010, and then 11 we built that one, and 12 we built this one, and 14 that one, and 16 and 22, and it really ramped fast from there. And in between the growth here, Matt, as a vendor, came on board in 2015. We built the South Dakota site. Spike came on board in 2010 as a customer in Croatia, and now operates the Osijek, Croatia location. And Rusty came on board in 2018, and Bob came on board in 2020. So we got one big happy family now.